Alright, today I'm going to show you how to do filter maintenance on one of our BestCode continuous inkjet printers. First thing we're going to do is we're going to hit the service button. We're going to hit the status screen here. And now you're going to notice the status of our filter. We have 9,741 hours left on this 10,000 hour filter, but we're going to go ahead and change it for this video purpose. So here's one of the filters that we're going to be using. We have three different styles of filters. We have a 2,000 hour. This is the 10,000 hour, part 31-5050-02. We have the 2,000 hour filter. Part number for that is 31-5053-02. And we have a 5,000 hour filter. And the part number for that is 31-5051-02. So depending on how many shifts you run is the type of filter that you would use in your continuous inkjet printer. One shift, 2,000 hours, two shift, 5,000, three shifts would be the 10,000 hour filter. The filters need to be changed annually. So at the end of 1 year, we should change out the filters in our system. So here, let's start by taking off our ink smart fill cup. We have 3 screws here. Be very careful when you're taking them out not to drop them into the ink cup, because it will go into the reservoir. Again, just be very careful when taking these screws out. You do not want to drop them inside there. It'll be inside the ink reservoir and a heck of a time to get them out. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull this right out and stick it to the side. We have a 10,000 hour filter in this system, and we're going to be changing it to a 5,000 hour. This is if you have an empty bottle and you need to use a beaker, go ahead and cut the top off, and I'll show you what to do with it. We're going to start by unstrapping our Velcro and moving it to a side. So now we have our filter loose in our hand. You're going to need a 5/8 open end wrench, and those are our parts. That's the filter, and that's the pre-pump filter in the back. Looks like a little UFO. We're going to be changing both of those today. So with your 5/8 wrench, you're going to go ahead and just loosen the top end of the filter. And as you can see, it's coming from our venturi. And once you have that off, a little ink might splatter, so be careful, but then go ahead and tuck that out of the way. Then I take the filter like so, and I put it into the bottle or the beacon, and then I can go ahead and take the bottom knurl fitting off. And again, I'm using a 5/8 inch wrench. A few turns on it, and then you should be able to do it with your hand. And just place that out of the way. And you can see the ink pouring out. There is quite a bit in there. So again, be careful not to spill it, make a mess. But now that filter's out and can be disposed of, so we can go ahead and replace with a new filter. So now I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to take out the pre-pump filter. And again, it looks like a little black UFO to me, but it's called our pre-pump filter. It's going from our ink tank into our primary of our ink pump. And we're going to go ahead and start taking that off. And that is also with the 5/8 open end wrench. I put a rag down here when I'm taking off the fittings. I'm trying to keep the ink from splattering all over the place. There's a little ink still left in the tubes. So again, an ounce of prevention. So with the 5/8 wrench, I'm just going to loosen up the fitting here a few turns, and then you should be able to do it by hand. I think it's going to need a few more turns than I did, so maybe 2 or 3 more, and then we should be able to do it by hand. There we go. So we'll loosen this fitting till we could take it off and just place that out of the way. Now the bottom one, you could take this right out. I didn't choose to do it in this video, but you can pull that out and just wrap it in cloth, and that's probably the easiest way to replace the bottom, or continue removing the filter here. But with the 5/8 inch open end, you could turn it a few times. And then pretty much spin the rest off freely with your hand. Just bend the tubes out of your way so you can get into it. And this is why I take out the Smart Fill cup, because it just gives you a lot more access to get in there and remove what you need to remove, guys. So now that I have it loose, like I said, I could do it by hand and just go ahead and remove the rest of the pre-pump filter so we can install a new one into our system. We'll go ahead and stick that inside of a beacon, or a beaker rather. So now I have my new filter. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I push the knurl in there, and I go ahead and I hand tighten it. And then I'll take my wrench and snug it up, maybe 1.5, 2 turns, just to make sure that I have it tight enough where we'll have no leaks. Now I'll go ahead and I'll put on the top fitting. Again, we'll push that in all the way. And we'll get that down as tight as we can by hand, and then just give it a few turns extra with our open end wrench. Now we changed out the pre-pump filter, we go ahead and grab our main filter. Like I said, we had a 10,000 hour filter in here. We're going to go ahead and change it to a 5,000 hour filter, or 2 shifts. Again, if you remember what I said at the beginning of the filter, we have 2,000, 5,000, and 10,000 hour filters, depending on how many shifts you run. The filters are all selected for direction of flow, and there's the smart fill tag that we're going to be scanning later. So you have to have the tag lined up with that reader here, and we'll show you that later in a little bit after we have the filter installed. So just know that the tag is going to go into the back and that the filter is direction of flow. So we'll go ahead and we'll add the tube that comes from Venturi will go to the top of my filter, and I'll push that in like so, and again hand tighten it, and then use my 5/8 inch open end, and I will go ahead and just give it a couple turns to make sure that I'm tight enough where I won't have any leaks. Now I'll go ahead and I'll put the bottom end into my new filter. So I'll go ahead and I'll push that back, and I'll make sure I push it back enough where I can push that end of it all the way into my filter like so. And now I'll go ahead and I'll tighten that up, hand tight as I can, and again I'll finish it with my open end wrench. So now I'm going to line up my tag to my reader. I'm going to go ahead and take my Velcro, and I'm going to hold my filter into place, holding the tag where the reader is, and I'm going to go ahead and snug that up for now. And as you can see, guys, the orientation of my tubes. The tube that is from the Venturi to the top of my filter is a little bit too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect it by pushing down on this little connector here, and I'm plugging it from my Venturi. Now I'll use my hand and I will tighten the filter in even more snug, because that's where it's going to stay. And then I'll take the tube and I will simply measure it for where I'm going to be cutting it with my tube cutter. So now that I know where I'm going to be cutting the tube, I'll get my tube cutter, making sure that I'm going to get a flat cut, because you don't want the cut to be on any kind of an angle. You want it to be a nice flat surface, so when we plug it back into the Venturi, it sits well and it plugs in. So go ahead and push it down snugly. If you're not sure, make sure you hear the click like there. You feel the click. Otherwise, when you turn on the pressure, you could have a leak. So you'll hear it click in, and that's good. We'll just clean up our area a little bit. We're going to put back in the smart fill cup now. Just move that out of the way, and we can just turn it a little bit. If you ever have trouble, whatever solution you're using, in this case I use MEK, you can just spray it a little bit, a very little bit, around the black tube there, and it will make that cup go right in a lot easier. but here you can see there's really no problem. So again, guys, we're putting back in our 3 screws. I know I've said it once or twice, but be very careful with these screws so that you're not dropping it, because if you drop it, it's going to go down that tube and into your ink tank. Then you'll be using a magnetic stick or something to get those screws out. So again, guys, just an ounce of prevention goes a long way. I'll go ahead and put my ink cover on, so we're all set there. The next thing I'm going to show you guys is to sign in, and we sign in as GoTech from the home screen. GOTECH, GoTech. Now that we're signed in, guys, from the home screen, we're going to hit Service. We're going to hit Tools. We're going to hit Technician. Then we're going to hit Smart Fill. And from the Smart Fill, you'll see, read the file tag. So that's the filter tag. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to move that now, and then we're going to hit the button. It says success, so there you go. Good job. That means my machine read the tag, and now you can see we went from a 10,000 hour filter to a 5,000 hour standard filter right here, guys. So good job, we did that well. Now when you go into service again and you go into status, you'll notice now we have a 5,000 hour filter, and that's what we were looking for. We went from the 10,000 hour to a 5,000, so that was done successfully. Now you're going to go into service, guys. You're going to go into fluidic. Right here you have your pump pressure. So what I do is I push it 5 to 6 times. I try to get up about 6 or 7 RPS, and now I look in the back and I make sure as I'm watching the fluid go from the Venturi through my tubes of my filter, my pre-pump filter, my pump motor. So everything that I touch back there, I'm just adding fluid at a lower pressure, and I'm making sure that there's no leaks on anything. So now I'm happy I have no leaks. Again, on the right hand side, I'll press stop. I'll go back to my home screen. Again, I'm checking, no leaks, so that's great. And the last thing we're going to be doing is changing the air filter in the front here. They are directional. You'll see the shiny side, we're going to go to the back here, and the part that has the less than shiny will go out to the front. The shiny will keep any moisture from going and contaminating anything that's inside my electronic compartment. But this is easy enough. Now I'm just going to put the bracket back over to hold it in place. I'm going to put the little stand that holds it in, back in, and shut the door. So now you've seen that we've changed all the filters and done the maintenance on one of our continuous inkjet printers.